breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm and friendly hello! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast or Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with him about what we're all seeing in Major League Baseball right now, a few teams that he's feeling bullish/bearish on, and we're going to be breaking down the card that we've got for Thursday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want, and that 100% of gambling transactions all get approved when you go to edgeboost.bet. Put in that promo code of Greg, GREG. That'll get you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
I'll lead off with this game because the guy that was on the mound for the Texas Rangers actually went to my high school, and he was a year younger than me. I remember playing cards with him in study hall, so a little bit of a sentimental moment for myself. Was hoping that Caleb Bosley would have a little bit of better start to the game, but the team let him off the hook, made sure they didn't take the loss. As the Texas Rangers, they do get the job done this by kind of 6-3, and if you like me had the under, the Royals have been one of your better under teams in all of baseball, 54 overs, 71 unders, and 2 pushes. Rangers, 55 overs, 71 unders, and 2 pushes. You got costed by an error in the 9th inning, so that was a little bit less than savory as our man in Caleb Bosley gave up a 3-run homer in the first inning. That was less than savory as well. Gives that run up to Vinny Pasquantino, 25th home run season, but settled down from there, and then the Rangers bullpen really did a nice job. It was a piggyback between Bosley and Jacob Latz. Latz 3 1/3 inning scoreless. Sean Armstrong 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Hobie Milner 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Wyatt Langford goes deep off of Noah Cameron. That was home run number 18 of the campaign for Cameron. Solid start. He doesn't go very deep, but 4 2/3 innings allows 2 runs. Taylor Clark from there 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Daniel Lynch gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Lucas Urch's edge and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Sammy Long on look for those 3 runs in the 9th inning, but Vinny Pasquantino and a fielding error in the 9th inning. They should have been out of the 9th inning, but they were not, and that costed them. The LA Angels, they've been one of your better over teams in all of baseball, but not on this night. 2-1. They defeat the Cincinnati Reds. Reds, by the way, have been your best under team in all of baseball. 47 overs, 76 unders, and 2 pushes thus far this season, as Nick Martinez did his part. Gave up a solo home run over the course of 6 innings. That was to Yoel Moncada, 9th home run in the campaign. From there, Scott Barlow, a scoreless inning. Graham Ashcraft, he was a load of Ashcraft, giving up a run in 2/3 of an inning before Brent Suter gets it out of the bullpen. And for the Reds, they just weren't able to get to Yusei Kikuchi. I say he was pretty solid. 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Reed Detmers and Luis Garcia both led a scoreless inning. Jesus Luzardo has been anything but solid recently, but gets the job done against the Seattle Mariners by a count of 11-2 as Luis Castillo doesn't last long in this game. 10 hits, allows 3 runs over the course of 4 innings. Lucky they didn't give up more, as for the Philadelphia Phillies, they did get a home run in this one off the bat of Max Kepler, 13th home run season. Then a little bit later on, Kyle Schwarber, a Schwarbomb, his 45th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Saren Lau. Hopefully I said that correct. He came in and he gave the team 1 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, all of which were earned, as Taylor Cicado, he gave up 5 runs in a 1/3 of an inning. Edward Bizzardo, Caleb Ferguson, and Matt Brash all give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Seattle Mariners, their 2 runs were off of solo home runs. And Eugenio Suarez, 39th home run season, and Julio Rodriguez, a home run in the first inning off of Jesus Luzardo, who was solid in this one. Gives up that solo home run, 12 punch-outs, 6 innings, allows 1 run. And then from there, David Robertson gives up the other solo home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Tanner Banks and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Jose Alvarado, Joe Ross, they both polish off a scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they get a series win over the Toronto Blue Jays, 2-1 the final. For Chris Bassett, at hook, line, and sinker, pretty solid start. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, 10 punch-outs. Braden Fisher in out of the bullpen scoreless. Brandon Little, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Sir Anthony Dominguez, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. George Springer does go deep off of Yuto Mets with a Johan Oviedo solo home run, a leadoff home run, 21st home run of the campaign, and then he would settle in from there, giving up the 1 run in 5 innings. Kyle Nicholas, 2 scoreless innings. Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, they're both able to turn a scoreless inning. for the St. Louis Cardinals, things have been less than savory for them recently, and they fall to the Miami Marlins this by a count of 6-2, as Andre 3000 Palante did not give up 5,000 runs, but he did give up 5 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, including home run number 1 of the season to Maximo Acosta, I believe his first career home run as well. From there, you had a pair of outside the bullpen scorers from Ryan Fernandez. Andre Granillo was able to give you a inning. He gave up a run along the way, and Anthony Veziano, the former Miami Marlin, he was able to lend a scoreless inning, and you did have Wilson Contreras get his 17th home run season. That comes off of Sandy Alcantara, who goes 114 pitches, on 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 7 innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Calvin Fauché, a scoreless inning apiece. So Alcantara looking like the old Sandy of old, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they get the job done against the Cleveland Guardians. This by a count of 3-2, as for the Guardians, 0 of 10 with men in scoring position, and this was actually a really good start by the young gun and Parker Masick. His first career start gives up 1 run in 6 2/3 innings. From there, Hunter Gaddis a scoreless inning. Cade Smith gives up a home run in 1 1/3 innings, and Matthew Festa, no fiesta there. He gave up a unearned run in the 10th inning, as you had Mr. Adrian Del Castro get an RBI single to end the game, and Lourdes Gurriel's home run was able to force extra innings, his 17th home run of the campaign. So Guardians trying to be competitive out there in that American League wildcard picture, and the LA Dodgers trying to cling on for dear life in the NL West. They fall to the Colorado Rockies by a count of 8-3. As Shohei Ohtani, he gives up 5 runs in 4 innings. Not sharp here. From there, you had a scoreless inning out of the bullpen from Eduardo Enriquez. You had Paul Gervasi give up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, and then you had from there Jack Dreher give up 2 runs in his inning of work. Tanner Gordon, actually a really good start, gives up a solo home run, that to Teoscar Hernandez, 21st home run of the season, but that's all he'd give up in his 6 innings of work. Jimmy Herget, Luis Peralta, both on the scoreless inning, and then Jaden Hill, 2 unearned runs given up in his inning of work, hurt by Warming Venable and Orlando Arcia, committing a pair of errors out there in the field, but a nice win for the Colorado Rockies. And hey, the Chicago Cubs have won 3 straight over the Brewers. All of a sudden, they're making things competitive out there. 4-3 the final, as the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, does give up 3 runs in 4 innings. Has been a little bit rough since coming off the injury list. Jared Koenig gives up a solo home run in his inning work, that to Matt Shaw's 11th home run season. Then Nick Mears, Shelby Miller, Abner Uribe, all on the scoreless inning, and Colin Ray said hip hooray to giving up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Did walk 5, but managed to weasel his way out. Brad Keller from there, scoreless inning. Caleb Theobar 4 outside the bullpen, scoreless, and Daniel Palencia allows a run in his inning work, but it was still enough to be able to get the job done. And the Tigers were able to get the job done on Framber Valdez, 7-2 the final. Valdez gives up 4 runs without getting a single out to begin the game. Overall, gives up 7 runs in 5 innings. From there, Sean Dubin, Angel de los Santos, and Logan Van Way were able to give you a scoreless inning. And for Detroit, solid start out of Charlie Morton. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Did allow a home run to Mauricio Dubon, 7th home run season, but Brendan Ennefe, Tyler Holton, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Rafael Montero was not Montero-able. He was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. For the Washington Nationals, Brad Lord said, "Oh Lord," leading the team to a win. 5-4 the final for Mr. Lord. Does give up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run to Brett Beatty, 15th home run season, but Kodai Senga, 5 runs, 4 of which weren't given up in his 5 innings of work, including a home run to Josh Bell, 16th home run season. From there, the bullpens were solid, as Cole Henry, pair of outside the bullpen scores, Sanakuzi, Ogasara, along with Clayton Beater and Jose Ferrer led a scoreless inning, and then you had Tyler Rogers, Gregory Soto, Reed Garrett. I'll give you a scoreless inning for the New York Mets. To wrap up the night, you did see the San Diego Padres get the job done over the San Francisco Giants. This by a count of 8-1, as JP Sears, very solid start here, 1 run allowed over the course of his 6 innings of work. Did allow a solo home run to Casey Schmidt, 8th home run season, Wani Peralta, 8 scoreless inning, and then Yuki Matsui, David Morgan, they combined for 2 scoreless innings to polish off the game. And Landon Roop, well, he got rupeed. He gave up 5 runs in 2 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Manny Machado gets his 21st home run of the campaign, and Gavin Sheets his 16th home run season, and then Sheets off of Joey Lucchesi his 17th home run season, and Ryan O'Hearn off of Tristan Beck, 16th home run season. For Beck, long relief was pretty solid. 4 innings, gives up 1 run. Joey Lucchesi, he gave up a solo home run in his 2/3 of an inning, and Jose Buto, the former Metropolitan, he gives up a run in an inning. So Padres are able to get online there. Also being able to get online, the Athletics in 10 innings, they find a way to get the job done against the Minnesota Twins. This by a count of 4-2, as for the Twins, Bailey Ober, pretty solid start, gives up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Did allow a home run to Tyler Soderstrom, 23rd home run season. From there, Cody Funderburk, and out of the bullpen squirrels, Cole Sands, Justin Topa, both lend a scoreless inning, and then you had from there Brooks Kriske and Genesis Cabrera combined for 2 innings. Cabrera gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned off of a home run to Shea Langeliers in the 10th inning. Shea bangs his 28th home run season, then JT Ginninjuice allows 2 runs and 4 2/3 innings. From there, an A's bullpen that has been much maligned, very good. Tyler Ferguson, Elvis Alvarado were in the building for a scoreless inning. Hogan Harris, Michael Kelly, they both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Sean Newcomb was able to polish things off, 2 scoreless innings out of him, and then the Atlanta Braves got a really nice start out of Herson Waldrop. 1-0. The Atlanta Braves get the job done after the first 2 games were all sorts of harebrained and crazy for Waldrop. 7 scoreless innings. Pierce Johnson, Rossio Iglesias, they both under scoreless inning. And Martin Perez, 1 unearned run given up in 5 1/3 innings. Colson Montgomery committed the error, and that turned out to be the lone run of the game. Jordan Leisure League gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Mike Vasil, Brandon Eisert from there combined for 2 scoreless innings, but not enough as the team was unable to score on this night. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, there's been a lot of underwhelming games this far this season. The under hitting at 51.6%, 938 unders to 879 overs, while moneyline favorites hitting at about 56.7%, 1,068 and 814 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you take a look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, overs have been hitting at about 50.7%, 186 and 181 on the money line, while favorites, they've had a rough go of it, 209 and 181 on the money line. And in the last 7 days, favorites sitting at about 49 and 42, so that's 53.8%, relatively on par with that 30-day sample size, and we've seen quite a few unders over the last 7 days, 43 unders to 41 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, but if we look at Thursday's games and the landscape of baseball with Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beeson Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beeson Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard, who does such great work over at youtube.com/Rob Donaldson, doing a great job with the Rob's Best Bets show. I know he does an amazing job all throughout the year handicapping baseball, and then once baseball is done, does an incredible job in terms of college basketball as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at RobDFB. And Rob, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And, when we're looking at the sport of Major League Baseball right now, we're in that spot where we kind of feel like what we know about all these teams is accurate. And now it's just about, hey, how does it play out the rest of the way here? And thankfully, we still have some drama, we have some storylines, and we have some unsolidified, statuses of some of these teams when it comes to making the playoffs just in general.
And you bring up something very interesting. How do you take a look at things this time of year in terms of looking at recent form versus a full season? Because now we've got well over 100 games of sample size, but as we know, there are some teams that are getting incredibly hot. There are some teams that are going as cold as an igloo, and I always think that that's a very interesting dynamic this time of year.
Yeah, and what I kind of look at baseball and the kind of the lens of just in general is it's 100% a pendulum. The Brewers had this ultimate high, but that doesn't mean they're immune to going on a losing streak that maybe doesn't reach that level of equivalent the other way, but maybe they lose 5 in a row, or maybe they kind of drop some meaningful games down the stretch. And that's where I think the ultimate value this time of year lies is, yes, there are going to be some teams that are red hot, but there are also going to be some teams that, here in a week that are red hot, go cold. And that's where you really want to bet against them just from that inherent value standpoint. I look at the Mariners, for example, where they were rolling 2 weeks ago. Everybody was backing them, and now they've lost 5 straight. And I think when you look at the scope of all of those teams in the mix, no matter how talented they are, that's always the potential that's on the table there.
Yep, there is always that potential. And just how do you take a look at the entirety of the landscape of baseball? Because I just feel like this might be the most open postseason ever. You just alluded to the Brewers, how hot they got, but they're a team that I'm still not necessarily sold on. The Blue Jays and the Tigers have been the top teams out there in the American League. I'm not necessarily sold on them. The Dodgers are all sorts of banged up. We know about the firepower of the Yankees, but we also know about the issues of the Yankees as well. And I just take a look at things, and I feel like any team that gets into the postseason this year has a legitimate chance to win the World Series.
Yeah, and we're kind of almost living in a period of time in baseball now where it's less so about the guys you have on the bump. It's about the guys who have the bats, right? And from that standpoint, one of the best rotations and one of the best bullpens for most of the year in Major League Baseball. When you look at the Texas Rangers right now, obviously Merrill Kelly, Jacob deGrom, Nate Eovaldi, they're looking on the way outside in at the playoff picture, and a lot of teams in front of them maybe don't have that solidified starting pitching. I'm looking at a team like the Yankees where, yes, they have Max Fried and Carlos Rodon, but outside of that, it's kind of this mishmash of underperforming bullpen and starters on the back end that you really have questions about, but the bats are prevailing, and that's ultimately why they've won 4 games in a row. And so when you are kind of looking at both playoff races, maybe don't key in on the guys who are the aces, who take the bump, can kind of limit the runs, limit the damage. Look for where the offense is coming from and kind of follow that as the trend to really take you into the postseason here.
Yep, and I do think that with some of these offenses, it's been so interesting to look at, including the Milwaukee Brewers, where we're seeing a total of 7 between they and the Chicago Cubs for Thursday. Quinn Priester going up against Shota Imanaga, and for the Brewers, averaging nearly 5.8 runs per game away from home. But how much do you question whether or not that's sustainable? Because they have a massive home and road split. They don't necessarily have a lot of guys that are pumping the ball out of the yard. Now, they do have great balance with a lot of guys moving the line, but I think that this is just such an interesting game and such an interesting team in general.
Yeah, offensively, it's almost like they're getting along with quote-unquote power of friendship on their side. And, the friendship is a really good bond because they got some guys in that lineup right now with obviously future upside, but that future upside is showing in the moment. And that's why they were able to rattle off so many wins. And let me just ask you this, Greg. When Quinn Priester was acquired for, a dollar and some change, did you think he would have an 11-2 pitching record and a sub 3.5 ERA now sitting in late August?
No, I did not at all. I thought that it was a case where it's like, hey, if they actually get a few solid innings out of him, that should be considered a win right there. But somehow, some way, he has been absolutely magnificent. And for Shota Imanaga, he's got the low ERA, but his fielding independent numbers point towards a lot of negative regression. And I have some questions with him, and it's a big reason why I personally took the 7 over.
Yeah, and I'm actually right there with you in this game because with Shota starts, and this is kind of a thing that I think a lot of the good stuff guys kind of fall into, but they can labor against lineups that will battle you. And the Brewers are a team and a lineup right now that are willing to go out there and take pitches, work at bats, and kind of playing annoying baseball. If you're, looking at it from the lens of, base runners and aggressive stolen bases and sort of that style approach offensively. And from that standpoint too, when you do look at Quinn Priester, he has had a phenomenal season just out of nowhere when he got acquired from Boston. And I do think that he's going to be a very usable guy moving forward. But at the same time, he does have some underlying numbers that concern me against some of the better lineups in the league. And even with the Cubs struggles, they have enough lefties right now that are hitting the ball well that I feel like can do damage early against him as well. So I'm right there with you on the over. I think that's one of my favorite plays on the board there on Thursday.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that is going to be a fun one for this Thursday, as Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the Rob's Best Bet show, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that this one is interesting as well. We've got ourselves the Cardinals against the Rays, with the Rays being a bit of a home underdog. Sonny Gray versus Joe Boyle. And Sonny Gray obviously has a larger name. He's a guy that has been around the block quite a bit, but I look at this Cardinals team. It's been rough for them ever since really the beginning of the month of July from an offensive standpoint. And for Sonny Gray, I have to gauge him so much differently at home rather than on the road, and that's why I just can't back him in this spot.
Yeah, and even at home recently for Sonny Gray, it hasn't been going that well, and in large part, it's about giving up that long ball and just kind of, and at this point in the season too, with teams that are almost kind of lingering outside the playoff picture and maybe have kind of almost plateaued or feel a little bit stagnant, like how I would describe the Cardinals as being, you got to kind of wonder what the morale of some of these players ends up being as well, because he's gone up there and yeah, he still does his thing, once every 3 starts where he's shoving for 7 innings strong, but he's a far cry from where he was just a few months ago, or a couple months ago rather. And I do think when you're looking at the Rays lineup, this is a lineup that can actually do damage, especially when you're hanging pitches and you're going up against a bullpen that maybe isn't truly solidified or truly strong, 6 through 9. And from that standpoint, I definitely can't back the Cardinals with a name like Sonny Gray on the bump right now, who isn't performing like the Sonny Gray we know. And on the other side with Joe Boyle, I think he's one of the better value backs on a game by game basis. So yeah, give me the Rays in that game. And I think that's one of those ones too that you can actually ladder on the run line and feel kind of confident about it as well.
And for Joe Boyle, 1 run allowed at home this far this season, albeit it's only been in 15 innings, but 1 run allowed at home this far this season. So I do like that. And this one I think is interesting because the Mets may have had a little bit of a rough run recently, but they were able to get a few wins against the Mariners, took down the Nationals on Monday. We are a little bit TBD with regards to the Tuesday game, but it's Sean Manaea going up against Mackenzie Gore. Gore is about a plus 120 or so underdog. Total on this game is 8. How do you take a look at this one with Sean Manaea looking a little bit shaky recently, but as we know, even if you get a good start out of Mackenzie Gore, this is a very, very rough Nationals bullpen.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the Nats bats are actually pretty fun. It's almost like we're watching the A's of the NL when we watch the Nationals. But from a Mets standpoint, just a Sean Manaea standpoint moving forward, coming off the IL stint for the first few starts, it's always going to be a little bit shaky, and that's kind of what he experienced right out of the gate coming off the IL. But now that he's starting to kind of get tuned up and starting to get a little bit more active, and he is going up against a lineup that does struggle a bit against left-handed pitching, I do feel like the Mets bats are going to be able to do enough in this game to kind of get after Mackenzie Gore. And Mackenzie Gore is one of those almost like boomer bust starting pitchers start by start and I would even compare him to another guy's going in Dylan Cease. It's almost like he goes 6 or 7 innings strong and gives up 1 earned or less runs, or he's going out there and he's getting shelled. And I do feel like tomorrow kind of almost looks like it's going to be the latter from the standpoint of how good the Mets bats are playing right now.
Yep, with the New York Mets, they've been able to do a very rock solid job with regards to their lineup. The bullpen, Ryan Elsley looking at you, not necessarily been the world's greatest for them. And then this team is interesting as the Royals all of a sudden are back in the playoff picture, facing off against the Rangers. Patrick Corbin is starting to look like the Patrick Corbin that we all know and love right now with Michael Lorenzen, and the Royals are about a minus 110 to a minus 120 favorite. That totals at 9. How do you gauge this one with the Royals team that has been a little bit better at bat recently, but still dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game?
I was just about to say, the calling card of the Royals all season is good pitching. They can't score any runs to be competitive, but since the deadline, they have been scoring a ton. And from that side of things too, I think that's where you can almost buy the dip and play some of these overs when they do have a guy like a Michael Lorenzen, who's one of their more, I think, susceptible starters in the rotation. And Patrick Corbin on the other side has obviously experienced that regression as well. And so it's almost like one of those kind of melting pot games of, yeah, we're going to be taking advantage of both the Rangers and Royals' perception with them not being able to score runs because they're both near the bottom in terms of runs scored this season. But as of late, both lineups have been scoring runs. Michael Lorenzen is one of the more susceptible pitchers, and Patrick Corbin is regressing. I really do love a full game over in this spot and a first 5 over in this spot, and I think this actually might be my most confident bet on the board there.
The old turkey tosser and Patrick Corbin, because he used to get carved up so much with the Washington Nationals. That should be some good, clean fun, and we do have Yankees versus Red Sox that goes down on Thursday as well, so we have to talk about that. Right now, that initial opener is minus 130 on the Yankees, plus 120 on the Red Sox with a total of 8.5. And want to get your thoughts here because I just can't bring myself to betting on Luis Seal because I don't know what I'm going to get out of him. It feels like he's the actual living version of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. And for Lucas Giolito, he's actually been very good recently.
Yeah, and Luis Seal is continuing to pump the zone, but the unfortunate thing is his velocity seems to be down a tick. According to Pitching Ninja and the accounts that sort of surround that space, it seems like his spin rate is also down a little bit in some areas as well, where that was kind of his calling card when he was really at his high. And I do think it's a question of, okay, he's coming off the IL stint, obviously probably not healthy right away. How long does it take him to get back into form? If he does get back into form, well, I can't really bank on that until I see it. And from the standpoint of Luis Giolito, hey, welcome back, man. I mean, this guy is pitching extremely well. It's almost like we're seeing the White Sox version of him again. And from that side of things, and when factoring in the Red Sox bats as well, I'm totally willing to back the Red Sox on a run line price through the first 5, also a run line price through the full game. Those would be my 2, I think, really good bets in that game, and I would say they're pretty strong there.
Yep, absolutely. With the Red Sox, I do think that they've got some good value here. And for Luis Gil. Just who knows how long he's going to be able to go in this game as well. And then I think that this one is interesting with the way that the Astros have just not looked that great in general. Jason Alexander going against Brandon Young, and Young threw 7 no-hit innings against the Astros in his last start. Total on here is 9. Jason Alexander, no relation to George Costanza, by the way, but how do you take a look at this game with it being a relative pick'em?
Yeah, and I think when you're looking at the Astros right now, this is sort of a team that if you want to place futures on sort of outside the box on missing the playoffs, they're one of the few teams, and I would say actually the only team that's a current division leader that I could just totally see falling out of the frame completely. And that's because the AL near the wild card, at the bottom of the wild card, is so darn competitive. Even the Mariners, who are kind of right on the Astros' tail in that division, are holding on for dear life in that final wild card spot. And from that side of things, too, I get it. Yordan Alvarez is coming back in the lineup, but until he does, this pitching has been struggling, the lineup struggling, and the Orioles are actually playing some really good baseball as of late as well. I just feel like this is a perfect kind of blended spot to take a shot on the Orioles with the perception of the Astros being a division-leading team, just not really playing like it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting to take a look at this Astros team because they've had their ups and downs all season long. And Rob, is there anything else that you're looking at, whether that be on the Thursday card or just maybe something that you're looking at a little bit more from a futures perspective?
You know, I brought up I think my favorite future in terms of the Astros missing the playoffs. That one just kind of feels like a really good value proposition. In terms of the board tomorrow, I actually like taking almost like a vintage shot at an under between the Padres and Giants when you have Justin Verlander or Dylan Cease on the bump, because, hey, 5 years ago, if that was a pitching matchup, you might expect 0 runs to be scored through the first 7 frames. But now we're kind of in a position where it's like, are we going to see 15 through the first 5? And I do think sometimes when you have these kind of vintage, old school, really good pitching matchups on paper, like we saw with Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw, sometimes these pitching matchups do bring out the best in guys that do have a lot of talent. And from that standpoint, I actually do like taking a shot on the under.
I absolutely love that under as well. For Dylan Cease, I think that he's doing for a lot of positivity, and Verlander has been much better than his record would indicate as well. So I'm right there with you, and a man that is always doing a tremendous job is you, Rob. You're hard at work taking a look at this amazing game of baseball. You're doing absolutely incredible work getting set for the upcoming college basketball season as well. So love to get people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I always love talking ball with you, my man. And for those who are wanting to follow my bets throughout the rest of the regular season, all the way into the postseason, you can do so on Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate having me on, man.
Absolutely. Rob doing an incredible job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Rob for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such amazing insights. Did so once again today. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Cubs play host to the Milwaukee Brewers. Quinn Priester is on the bump for the Brewers, and Shota Imanaga goes for the Cubs. Right now, I'm seeing one initial opener of 7 with regards to this total. The over and the under both have -110. This is a Wrigley Field game, so most places do not have this up on the board. But that said, the money line anywhere between -135 to -144 is the number on the Cubs. Anywhere between +118 to a plus 128 on the Brewers. I set the Cubs at a minus 134. Right now I'm seeing a minus 135, so we need to go down a penny when it's all said and done. I would think with the Brewers' upward momentum, we should be able to get that minus 134. So in all likelihood, we'll be looking at the Cubs, or if I'm able to get a plus 158 or better on the run line, I'd be looking there on the Cubs as well. Right now, not seeing really any run line prices without any sort of a total in most places, but except for the Cubs, they've been able to build some upward momentum in this series. Being able to sweep that doubleheader a few days ago was big, and I mean, this is still a top 5 lineup in all baseball, even with Pete Crow Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki having their struggles. Both of them have 27 home runs for the season, but have went cold a little bit recently. You have been able to have Michael Busch continue to move the line, 340 on base, 24 home runs, and it's been some unlikely sources like Owen Cassidy has been really big in this series for the team. You've had Justin Turner be able to give you some good at-bats recently as well. Carson Kelly's continued to give you a 360 on base, Kyle Tucker 375 on base, 18 home runs, and for the Cubs, this has still been an upper half of the big league team with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've got a lot of guys that have been just good mix and match guys in general. Taylor Rogers, Brad Keller, Caleb Theobald, Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomeranz. All these guys are giving you a sub 250 ERA. The big issue that I actually do have is Shohei Managa and the way that he has been giving up quite a bit of hard contact this far this season, about 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, a 3.06 ERA, but a fielding independent that's over 1.25 points higher than that. He really doesn't give out a lot of walks, fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, so that's been solid. And Quinn Priester is a guy with a very similar strikeouts per 9 rate, so there should be a lot of contact in this game, and that plays into the fact that the wind is going to be blowing in, so that's really going to be helping these guys out. Right now, it looks like we are going to be getting winds blowing in a little bit more directionally, but in at about 10 miles per hour, so very helpful for these pitchers. And for Priester, about a 3.48 ERA for the season, similar strikeouts per 9 rate, 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.2 home runs, 2.9 walks per 9 innings, and he is backed up by one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball, albeit it's a Brewers bullpen that has been used quite a bit over the last few weeks with the series that they had with the Cincinnati Reds with a lot of multi-inning games, the double dip that we saw on Tuesday. But that said, you've got the likes of Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, Trevor McGill, Grant Anderson, all being able to supply you with a sub-3 ERA. And for the Brewers, they've really not needed the Powerball to be able to ignite a lot of offense. The only guy that's healthy in the lineup with over 15 home runs this season, that'd be Christian Yelich, 26 bombs, but you just have a lot of guys that are finding a way on base. Obviously, Yelich is one of them, Blake Perkins, Caleb Durbin, Bryce Terang, William Contreras, Sal Frelick, all give you above a 330 on base, and then Isaac Collins is up to about a 375 on base as well. So it is a circumstance where I do think that the Brewers are going to be able to get to Imanaga a little bit. I was seeing a 6.5 with regards to that total as well. I'm in on that over, but with the Cubs, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 133 with that money line as well. 953, 954 on the card. The Rockies are playing us to the LA Dodgers as Clayton Kershaw is on the bump for the Dodgers, and one Mr. Chase Dollander goes for the Rockies. Rockies are a Rocky-sized underdog between plus 230 to plus 240, and between minus 260 to minus 295. That number on the Dodgers, and the total is a nice hearty 12.5 with the over anywhere between even money to minus 105. The under is between minus 115 to a minus 120. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the LA Dodgers, right now you find that at a minus 170, which I'm willing to lay that. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 189 in terms of this run line. For Chase Dollander, he actually does have a little bit of upside. I know that he was pitching in the SEC in college baseball a few seasons ago, but the good swing and miss stuff that he showed in college and that he showed at the minor league level has yet to show up at Coors Field, just because Coors Field really does make it a little bit more difficult for your breaking stuff to really pop as much. 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.7 home runs, and 4.4 walks per 9 innings for Dollander. And for Dollander, he's just been off and on injured. Like, he spent a month on the injured list before coming back for his last 2 starts, and you take a look at what he's done at Coors Field this year, he has been a whole heck of a lot better when he's been on the road rather than at home. On the road, Dollander is a presentable pitcher, 3.95 ERA. He is giving up about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings when he's on the road, actually closer to 1.5, but I mean, he's posting up some respectable numbers. At home, 9.16 ERA. At home, he's giving up well above 2 home runs per 9 innings. And now you have to go up against a Dodgers team that's in the top 3 in terms of run production. Now, with this LA Dodgers team, it is a unit that is without Max Muncy. And without Max Muncy, they've always struggled on offense. I'm not sure why, but I mean, he's been rock solid with a 390 on base with 17 home runs, so he's certainly missed, but Shohei Ohtani continues to do Shohei Ohtani things. Has already gone deep in this series, 44 bombs, 390 on base. Andy Paz is up to 20 home runs along Teoscar Hernandez. With Paz, he's sitting at 275. Hernandez really doesn't give you a ton in terms of on base, but that's why you've got Freddie Freeman and Will Smith. Will Smith getting jiggy with it with a 400 on base. Freddie Freeman about a 375 on base. Big issue for the Dodgers is the bullpen. You got Brock Stewart, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, all currently on the injured list, but we've had a few guys be able to step up. Alex Vesia, Drac Dreyer have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Blake Trinan is coming off the injured list. He should be able to look like the Blake Trinan that we all know and love. And for the Colorado Rockies, this team is second worst in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Victor Vodnik being able to give you some relatively good performances. He's down below a 4 ERA. Jaden Hill, Duggar Darnell have not been terrible in this bullpen, but then you've got the likes of Nick Anderson, Ryan Rolison, Anil Shavili. So many guys posting up an ERA that is above a 5. And for this lineup of the Colorado Rockies, it has been very rocky to say the least as well. Hunter Goodman is up to 25 home runs. He's been hitting in that neighborhood about a 272. And this team does obviously hit quite a bit better at home rather than on the road. But even at home, they're averaging about 4.5 runs per game. That's about league average, and when you're a league average offense playing at Coors Field at elevation, that's not great. Mickey Moniak, Hunter Goodman, a combined 21 home runs at home this far this season. Moniak hitting about a 290 at home, and then you've got Jordan Beck hitting above a 300 at home. You had Ezekiel Tovar hitting really well at home as well, but now he's on the injured list, and you got Kyle Farmer at Coors Field hitting for a 254 on base. Just not great to say the least. And for Clayton Kershaw, his whiff rate is just way down from where it has been at the beginning part of his career. But I mean, he's still doing a nice job mitigating hard contact, giving up 0.8 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings, so 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, by far a career low for him. But still, posting up a 301 ERA. I do think that he's going to be hit, and I do think that he's going to give up some runs here, but I do think that the 12.5 has gone a scotch too far. Semi-total 12.2. I like the under and the Dodgers on the run line. 955, 956 on the card. The Washington Nationals play us the New York Mets. Sean Manaea is on the bump for the Mets, and Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored for Washington. Washington is a pretty sizable underdog. You're going to be getting them anywhere between a plus 118 to a plus 125 and minus 133 to minus 144 as that number on the Mets. The total on this game is 8. Over is between minus 115 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 105. And for Manaea and the Mets, I did set them on the money line at a minus 152, so I am going to be willing to lay it. Don't really want to go run line because the Mets have been very shaky in the bullpen. Ryan Helsley, well north of 5 ERA since they picked him up. Tyler Rogers has been solid with the Mets in the bullpen. Same with Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, sub 325 ERAs out of both of those guys. But I mean, whenever you've got Ryan Standing out there, that's been an adventure to say the least. And for Sean Manaea, he's been rough recently. He has given up 4+ runs in each out of his last 3 starts. He's still getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and has only given up the 2 walks per 9, but has allowed a lot of hard contact. 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and began his season on the injured list, so he's looking to come back there. And for Mackenzie Gore, it has been a rough last few starts for him as well. He has given up a whopping 16 runs over the course of his last 4 starts, albeit 17 strikeouts over the course of 12 innings in his last 2 starts, so looks like he's starting to get back online there. He's been one of the best whiff rate pitchers in all of baseball, 10.8 strikeouts to 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 404 ERA, 350 fielding independent, so that's been pretty solid, but he is backed up by a bullpen that's currently dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of ERA. For the Washington Nationals, you've got the likes of Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rapalta, Jose Ferrer. So many guys are posting up a north of 4.50 ERA. They're looking to Sanakusu Ogasawara for some innings as well. That's not great. And for the Washington Nationals, it's just been a case where this offense has not been the same when they've been at home rather than away from home. The Nationals are actually a top 10 team in terms of run production when they're away from home, averaging about 3.9 runs per game at home this season. That is a bottom 7 mark in all of baseball. You've got a guy like a C.J. Abrams with 16 home runs. He's only hit 3 of them at home this far this season. James Wood is giving you good wood, 25 home runs, but no longer does the team have Nathaniel Lowe, so they're looking at Josh Bell. He's been hitting above a 275 since the beginning of the month of July. He's up to 15 home runs, and they're very much looking to the young guys like a Dalen Lyle, who's hitting a 260, but really doesn't provide a lot of power. Robert Assel's been able to hit about a 245, but no on base whatsoever. Not really giving you a lot of power. Same goes for Brady House, guys like this. And on the flip side, for for the New York Mets, you do have a quartet of guys who have been able to give you at least 20 home runs. Does seem like Francisco Lindor is starting to get over that lower body injury that has been ailing him for quite a while. He, Brendan Nimmo, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, all about 20-plus home runs. Soto's up to about a 386 on base. And Brett Beatty's been able to give you some power as well. He's up to 14 home runs, hitting a 240. Mark Vientos has had a rough season, but he's been picked up a little bit, hitting about a 230. You've had, at the catcher spot, Francisco Alvarez hitting about a 250. So do you think that the Mets are able to get to Mackenzie Gore here? Did somebody tell it at 8.2, so I like the over, and I do like the Mets. On the money line, don't want to chance that run line with the way that their bullpen has been performing. 957, 958 on the card. It is the Giants on the road against the Slam Diego Padres, as Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Pods, and it is one Mr. Justin Verlander on the bump for the Giants. Giants are an underdog of anywhere between plus 140 to plus 150. Meanwhile, minus 160 to minus 172 is the number on the Padres. 8 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. And for the Padres, I set their money line price at a minus 167. If you're looking to lay run half, you're going to be fine that at a plus 126. I was willing to take a plus 122 or higher. I recognize that for Dylan Cease, man, this has been a rough season for him. There are so many things pointing to positivity for him. He just has not been able to fulfill it. A 4.61 ERA. Fielding a pennant, back right around about a 3.54, a full point lower than that ERA. 11.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up the 3.8 walks per 9, but I mean, overall, he's just had a really, really rough run of things. He's given up 3+ runs and now 2 out of his last 4 starts once again. He has been having a rough time both at home and on the road, but the Giants have had a rough time all season long as well. They're in the bottom 7 in all baseball in terms of run production, and for the Giants, Rafael Devers deal just has not worked out for them, as Eloy Ramos has actually been one of your best hitters. 15 home runs, he's been able to fly about a 350 on base. Jung-Ho Lee has been up and down, but he's already got a home run in this series. With Mr. Devers, you just expect a little bit more than a 320 on base and 7 home runs in his first 54 games, actually 9 home runs in his first 54 games, but I mean, you just expect a little bit more there. Willy Adames, he's been a little bit too little too late. He's had 10+ home runs since the beginning of the month of July, but still hitting at 222 for the season by the time he's picked it up. Demons out of the playoff race. Matt Chapman, 16 home runs. He's only been able at about a 230 as well. You've got Mike Yastrzemski now on the Kansas City Royals, so that's been an issue. And I will say for the Giants, they continue to maintain a top 3 bullpen in terms of ERA. Did like the fact that they picked up Jose Buto at the trade deadline. He's able to give you a sub-375 ERA as a long reliever, but they trade away Tyler Rogers, they trade away Camilo Unival, so Randy Rodriguez is pretty much the lone guy out of the main bullpen pieces as remaining. Sub-2 ERA out of him. Joey Lucchesi about a 3.15 ERA. He's been relatively solid, but thanks to Carson Seymour, Ryan Walker have been having their issues, and for the Padres, this team continues to be number 1 in all baseball in terms of their bullpen ERA. So many guys like Adrian Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan, Jason Adam, who've been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. Wandy Peralta is down to about a 3 ERA as well. So these guys have all done their job. The big thing for the Padres is being able to get a little bit more of the deep balls. They have been a bottom 7 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. It does help that Ramon Laureano's out in the fold, 18+ home runs. He and Ryan O'Hearn both give you above a 340 on base after they came over from the Baltimore Orioles, and then Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Feels like these 2 guys have not hit a home run in an eon, but Machado continues to get on base, 355 on base, 20 home runs, Tatis 17 bombs, 370 on base, and then you got Jake Cronenworth giving you about a 360 on base. Jackson Merrill has been able to about a 260 thus far this season. He's been in and out of the lineup, and he's right now once again dealing with an ankle injury, not on the injury list, but once again dealing with injury, and the catcher spot has been rough for this Padres team, so they might have a little bit of a tough time getting to Justin Verlander, who at this advanced age, he's obviously not getting the same amount of whiffs that he did once upon a time, but he's still not been terrible this year. 4.23 ERA, 3.95 fielding dependent. He's giving up 1 home run and 3 walks per 9 innings while getting 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. I feel like he's been better than that 1-9 record would indicate, and he has given up 0-1 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. Problem is, the team is 1-4 in those starts. They're really not providing him a lot of support, as I believe that they have provided him with 4 runs of support or fewer in each of his last 4 starts. As a matter of fact, he combined 6 runs in those last 4 starts. So, circumstance where I do like the Padres here on the run line at a plus 122 or higher. And with regards to total, sub mine at a 7.8. So, here at the 8, I'm in on the under. 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the Athletics on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Jack Perkins is on the the bump for the Athletics, and it's a little TBD on the bump for the Twins. This game is off the board. Right now, the projection is Jose Urena going for the Twins. This most likely means a piecemeal game. I do expect Urena to pitch in some form or capacity. I don't know if it's going to be as like a piggyback, if it's going to be as a starter, because we know that we're not going to get Pierce Ewell. He was utilized a few days ago for 4 innings, so he is going to be out of the fold. You could be getting like a Travis Adam along with Mr. Urena as a little bit of a piggyback, and as a result, I would be setting the Twins more around about a minus 121 on the money line here, so minus 120 or better. We'll be looking at the Twins, would need at least a plus 122 to be able to take a shot on the Athletics, and then I'd be setting a total to where an 8.5 or less, I'd be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. For Jack Perkins, he's honestly been a relatively good relief piece, but the few starts that he's had have been quite a bit shaky right now for the Athletics. As a starter, he's been posting up an ERA above a 5, and that is a very hard jump to take, as it's not the same when you're coming out of the bullpen pitching for a few innings rather than when you're actually a starter, you're pitching once every 5th day and everything like that. Perkins finding that out the hard way, as he has now made in his last 3 starts a grand total of 14 innings, giving up in that time span a total of 10 runs, so that's been a little bit less than savory. Overall for the season, though, getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and if you do get Jose Urena, he's pitched for 4 different teams thus far this season, and I do expect this to be a little bit of a piecemeal game here for the Minnesota Twins, a team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and you just don't have a lot of sustainability with regards to this Minnesota Twins team and that bullpen in general, as you got a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA that is well above a 4, Justin Topa, Brooks Kriske, Cody Funderburk, Cole Sands. These guys have all been a little bit less than savory, to say the least, and for the Minnesota Twins are completely gutted with regards to their lineup as well. You got Byron Buxton, who's been able to give you 25 home runs, about a 340 on base, and Trevor Larnach is up to 16 home runs. He and Brooks Lee both hitting in that neighborhood about a 245. You've had Ryan Jeffers give you a 350 on base, so that's been helpful, but you trade away Willie Castro, Harrison Bader, Carlos Correa, so many of these guys, and on the other end, it's not necessarily like the Athletics have a great bottom of the lineup, but that top end, you've got a quartet of guys that are up to at least 22 home runs this far this season. Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langolaris, Nick Kurtz, and Brent Rooker. All these guys have been able to at least a 264 for this unit. Rookers give you about a 345 on base. Langolaris all of a sudden is sitting at 270. And then you've had Nick Kurtz give you about a 400 on base. He's slowed down a little bit with the deep ball, but still doing a great job moving the line now. Some of these guys throw the ball in the fold. You expect a little bit more there. Colby Thomas in a small sample size, 3 home runs in his first 51 at-bats. You do like to be able to see that, but whenever they've thrown out there the likes of Darnell Hernandez, even though he's got a 350 on base, he doesn't necessarily give you a lot of power. Denzel Clark has been a little bit hit or miss as well, and it's an Athletics bullpen that they themselves are in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. The long guys have been relatively solid, as you've been able to have a pair of guys in Sean Newcomb along Michael Kelly supply a sub 325 ERA. Elvis Alvarado has not been bad either, but then you got the likes of the new long guy, and it's Waldo Beto, Ben Bowden, Grant Holman, so many guys posting up above a 460 ERA. So at a minus 120 or better, looking at the Twins, plus 122 or higher, the Athletics, and then 8.5 or less, I'm in on the over, 9 or higher, the under. 961, 962 on the card. The Royals are going to be playing us to the Walker, Texas Rangers, as you've got one Mr. Patrick Corbin on the bump for the Rangers, and Michael Lorenzen goes for the Royals. The Royals are between minus 112 to minus 121 favorites, between even money to minus 105 is that number on Texas, and 9 is the total. The under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and for the Royals, I did set them on the money line at a minus 107. I would need to be getting plus money to be able to take a shot on the Texas Rangers, and if you're looking at that very initial run line, this is according to FanDuel, right now we're getting a case where we've had a flip of favorites, as the Royals are actually the team getting a run half. So if this goes to a pick'em, minus 105 on both sides, I will be looking at the Kansas City Royals, as I did set them as a slim favorite. And for Michael Lorenzen, he's not necessarily been a guy that I've been Jones in the back or anything like that. For Michael Lorenzen, very, shall we say, meh pitcher. 4.43 ERA, fielding dependent, more around about a 4.54. 1.5 home runs, 2.7 walks allowed per 9 innings, 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Is he the worst pitcher in the world? No, and he's given up 3 home runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. He's been pitching much better recently, but he's not necessarily a guy that you're Jones in the back. And for Patrick Corbin, it has been going down the toilet bowl for him a little bit. 4.45 ERA, his strikeouts per 9 rate hovering in the neighborhood about 7.5. He's given up 3 walks per 9 innings, and been a little bit better at keeping the ball in the yard, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but now he's given up 3+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts. He has posted up 3 strikeouts or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts, so this is a Patrick Corbin that we all know and love. Now, the good news for Patrick Corbin is that he's backed up by a Texas Rangers bullpen that since the beginning of the month of June, they have been a top 7 unit in terms of ERA. We have seen Robert Garcia have his issues recently. He's posting up now north of a 3.5 ERA, but I mean, these journeyman guys like Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, Cole Winn, they've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've had some good production out of Chris Martin, though he's now on the injury list, so that hurts his team a little bit, but for the Rangers, the big key is trying to be able to keep that offense that has been surging a little bit more recently going. Since the beginning of the month of July, the Rangers are averaging above 4.6 runs per game. You've got Corey Seager looking like the Corey Seager of old last 45 days, 400 on base. He's up to 19 home runs this season. And then you've got Wyatt Langford, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, all between 15 to 17 home runs this season. Garcia and Semien both hitting in that neighborhood of a 225, so you need a little bit more there. Jake Berger has been all over the place this season. They've gotten Jock Peterson off the injury list, and he's still hitting a $150, so that's been less than amazing. And then on the other end, for the Kansas City Royals, this team is dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home, with about 3.5 runs per contest, albeit they have been better recently, as you've had Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino do a nice job being able to supply the team with some power. 24 home runs for Pasquantino. Salvador Perez, he's up to 22 home runs. Perez still with a 288 on base, so you need a little bit more there, but Bobby Witt Jr., 18 bombs, 350 on base. But just not a lot of power out of this Kansas City Royals team. They're in the bottom 2 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis when they're at home. Although I will say, ever since they have picked up Mike Yastrzemski, 3 leadoff home runs in his first 16 games with the Kansas City Royals. You do absolutely love to see that. Kyle Isbell is sitting at 260, but he doesn't supply a lot of power. You just expected a little bit more than a 237 average and 8 home runs on Jonathan India, but this has been a bullpen that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got a pair of guys in Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursich, both being able to supply a sub-3 ERA. Daniel Lynch has been able to give you about a 277 ERA. They just got him off the injured list, and whenever he's been out there, you've been able to get some good production out of Steven Cruz, albeit he's a little bit banged up right now, so they're looking a little bit more to Taylor Clark, who he had a little bit of a shaky start to the season, but has been able to round into form. He's back below a 350 ERA, so it's a interesting circumstance here. Just a case where if we get a pick'em line with the Royals, I'd be willing to lay it with them up to a -106 on that money line, or if we could get like a +180 run line, because I do think that they can get to Patrick Corbin, I would be willing to take that as well. So in some former capacity, going to be looking at the Royals here, and I did some, I tell it at 8.9, so here at the 9, I'm in on the under. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Houston Astros on the road against the Baltimore Orioles, as Brendan Young goes for the Orioles. Jason Alexander, no, not George Costanza, is on the bump for the Houston Astros. Pick'em game, both of these teams between -105 to a -110 with a total of 9. Over is -115, and the under is -105. And when it comes to the Astros, I did set them at a -108 on the money line. So being able to get that -105, I'm going to be willing to lay it. Now, Jason Alexander, if you look at the overall season numbers, it has been less than tremendous for him. He's only getting about 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's not some sort of a power pitcher or anything like that. He's been giving up about 3.5 walks, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. But if you look at the difference between the way that he pitched for the Athletics versus the Astros, night and day. With the Astros, in his 7 total appearances, 263 ERA, 376 fielding independent. Again, still not getting a lot of strikeouts, but he's been able to do a good job mitigating hard contact with the Athletics in the 6 innings and the 4 appearances that he had for them in 18 ERA, and that'll happen when you pitch out there in Sacramento. Meanwhile, for Brandon Young, he's coming off of throwing 7 no-hit innings against the Houston Astros. He was going for a perfecto, if I'm not mistaken, in that game, but if you look at the overall season numbers, there's reason to believe that that was just a little bit of a flash in the pan. 5.68 ERA, 1.7 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, a 5 fielding independent. He has still given up a grand total of 6 runs in his last 2 starts across 12 innings, despite the fact that he had that great start against the Houston Astros. And this is an Astros team that's starting to go down the toilet bowl a little bit. They get swept by the Detroit Tigers, so that was a little bit less than savory, but do have to believe that these guys are going to be able to pick it up a little bit. Jose Altuve has still been rock solid for this team. He's been able to supply 22 home runs. He's hitting above a 275. Getting back Jeremy Pena is big. He's hitting above a 300 as well. They've had Chas McCormick throwing in long relief. That's not necessarily what you want, as he's a position player, but that said, you've got Yunior Diaz, Christian Walker, combined 33 home runs. They need to do a better job of getting on base. Walker about a 300 on base, 284 out of Yunior Diaz, but Jake Myers continues to hit above a 300 for this unit. And then on the other end, for the Baltimore Orioles, their home and road splits are just night and day with their offense. As for the Orioles, they have been second worst in the American League in terms of runs per game away from home, about 3.75 runs per game, and they're actually now last in the American League with the White Sox outburst against the Atlanta Braves here this week. But when they've been at home, they've been supplying over 5 runs per game. Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, all up to 15 home runs this season. And Westberg and Henderson both hitting above a 275. Holiday only right around a 250, but he's been solid. Adley Rutschman, since coming off the injury list, hasn't necessarily been able to give you a ton, but he's doing a whole heck of a lot more than some of these guys like Dylan Carlson, Colton Cowser. You just need a little bit more out of this outfield, but you've been able to have some of these young guys come up to the big league level and be able to give you some good production. Sam Basallo, the young catcher, has been able to have 300 in a very small sample size, and there's reason to believe that Kobe Mayo might be starting to bust out a little bit after he had a rough start to the season. Now for the Orioles, it has been a rough season for the bullpen. They're currently 25th in terms of bullpen ERA. Felix Bautista being on the injured list is rough, though you do have Dietrich Enns and Keegan Aiken. Pair of long guys give you a sub-325 ERA, but then you've got the likes of Yaramil Hidalgo, Corbin Martin, Yennier Cano, Grant Wolfram, whole bunch of guys posting up a above 470 ERA. And for the Houston Astros, this is a much better bullpen. Even with Josh Hader being out for this team, you've got the likes of Brian King, Brian Abreu, Stephen Okert, along with Sean Dubin being able to give you a sub-350 ERA. So I do think that in the end, Astros do find a way to be able to get the job done. I did sub my total 9.6, so I think that both of these starters give up plenty of contact. So I'm in on the over, and I'm in on the Astros up to a minus 107 on that money line. 965, 966 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox are on the road against the New York Yankees. Luis Eel is on the bump for the Yankees, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for the Red Sox. And most places do not have an opener up on this game. I am not quite sure why we don't have an opener up on this game, but we currently do not have an opener up on this game. But that said, I'm seeing one at FanDuel. Minus 138 on the Yankees, plus 118 on the Red Sox. Total of 8.5, overs even. The under is minus 120, and I did sell my total at 8.6. I would be willing to take a shot on that 8.5 over, and for the Red Sox, if we can get a plus 120 or higher, and most places have a little bit of better straddle than FanDuel, I should be able to get that plus 120. I'd be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. This is just flat out a fade of Luis Eel. For Eel, he is the real-life version of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn, as he is going to get his strikeouts. He, for his career, 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and also he, for his career, 4.8 walks allowed per 9 innings. He, in his 3 starts thus far this season, has lasted 14 innings. In those 14 innings, he has given up 8 runs, he has given up 8 walks, and he's gotten 14 punch-outs. So, he's once again being able to get those swings and misses, but he's once again giving up those walks. Probably not going to be able to give a lot of length for a Yankees bullpen that has been a little bit better recently. David Benar has been a solid add for them. He's posting up a sub-325 ERA for the season. Camilo Doval has not worked out to this point, and Devin Williams has been a complete and utter disaster. But now you've got Luke Weaver looking like the Luke Weaver that we all know and love, back to about a 250 ERA. Brett Hendrick in a long roll has been relatively solid as well, but Mark Leiter Jr. has been rough. Jonathan Loaizaga just hit the injured list, so that's not great, but what has been solid for the New York Yankees, obviously, has been this lineup. Aaron Judge up to 40 home runs and over a 440 on base. Cody Bellinger was able to go yard in that series against the Rays. He's up to 24 bombs, hitting about a 270. Paul Goldschmidt starting to get on base once again. His power is way down this year, but he's up to about a 333 on base, hitting about a 280. Ben Rice, after he was having some doldrums, he's up to 19 bombs, 335 on base. You've got Trent Grisham being able to give you 350 on base, and Giancarlo Stanton, home run every about 11 or so at bats. That's been pretty impressive, and for the Red Sox, this has been one of the best offenses in all of baseball. Even without Rafael Devers, they've really been able to ascend. For the Red Sox, they still average about 4.8 runs per game away from home, and that is a top 6 mark in all of baseball. So, even though Fenway is obviously a little bit of a hitter's ballpark, this offense has been able to travel. Weiler Abreu has been able to while out 22 home runs. He's hitting about a 250, and got a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood about a 250 to a 261, as you've got Jaron Durant, Ceddanne Rafaela, Trevor Story, all in that fold, and then you've got Rami Gonzalez sitting at 295. Roman Anthony, not a lot of power, but a 400 on base. Carlos Narvaez has been able to darn near 250 as well. So, I mean, these guys have been able to do a pretty rock solid job there. You back Alex Bregman, who's sitting at 385 for his on base. Masataka Yoshida has been a little bit hot and cold, but he's able to move the line. And for the Red Sox, this has been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. As I will say, Aroldis Chapman has probably been the best closer in all baseball this year. 1.13 ERA, about 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, and then likes of Justin Wilson, Garrett Whitlaw, Chris Murphy, Greg Weiser, all being able to give you a sub-325 ERA has been rock solid. You've been dealing with a few injuries in this bullpen, and Lucas Giolito has had a little bit of a topsy-turvy season, but I am for Giolito, even though he's given up the 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and he is down with his strikeout stuff. He's only getting about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been relatively steady since the beginning of the month of June. He had that one rough start against the LA Angels where things just looked like they had toilet bowled for him, but I mean, ever since then, he has been able to do a nice job of holding down the fort and being able to give the team good, presentable performances in his last 12 starts, posting up a 2.34 ERA, albeit that comes with a 4.06 fielding dependent as he's giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings in that time span, but has been able to keep the walks down in that time span, fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, has given up 1 run or fewer in 3 of his last 4 starts. So, do you think that Giolito has a chance to be able to go out there and get the job done here? At an 8.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over. And for the Red Sox, plus 120 or higher, do like that money line, and wrap things up with 967, 968 on the card. The Cardinals are on the road against the Rays as hip hip hoorays for Joe Boyle getting the start for the Rays, and Sonny Gray goes for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals do find themselves as between minus 117 to minus 126 favorites, plus 104 to plus 110 is that number on the Rays. 8.5 to 9 is the total. On the 9, the under is minus 120, the over is even. On the 8.5, the over is between minus 115 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 105. And for the Rays, I did set them at a minus 118. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. And for Joe Boyle, it has been a case where it's been rough for him as a starter. He's right now posting up above a 4.50 ERA. He's giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but it's been a small sample size. I mean, it's a really small sample size of 15 innings. 1 run allowed in 15 innings at home this far this season. So yay, verily there. And guess who has stunk it up on the road this year? Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray on the road, 5.23 ERA, giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. Overall for the season, a 4.30 ERA. And if you look at the fielding, dependent of a 3.25, should be doing for a little bit of positivity. 10 strikeouts to 1.5 walks per 9 innings, but and the man has been a disaster class recently. For Sonny Gray, he has given up a combined 25 runs in his last 6 starts, so that's been less than tremendous. He's really been giving up the deep ball. Over the course of his last 5 starts, 7 home runs allowed, and this is a Rays team that they spend a lot of time on the road, so being able to come back home, albeit that series against the New York Yankees was not necessarily what they were hoping for, but you've got Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, pair of guys that are really able to launch a ball with Caminero. He's been able to supply this team without 35 home runs. Doesn't really draw a lot of walks, but he's still been able to about a 255 for Lau. 270 batting average, 24 bombs. Yandy Diaz is giving you 20 home runs. He's hitting about a 280, so got a lot of guys that are able to hit for power. And then you've got Chandler Simpson, 34 stolen bases. He's been able to hit for a 300 for the team. You do have the likes of Taylor Walls, the catcher spot, Christopher Morel, only below a 225, but still, this has been a pretty solid lineup. And then on the other end, you've got a St. Louis Cardinals team that, since the beginning of the month of July, albeit they had a nice series against Miami Marlins, they've been a bottom 6 team in terms of their overall run scoring. You just don't have a lot of power on this team. Wilson Contreras up to 16 home runs. He's hitting for a 345 on base. And then you do have Alec Burleson up to 15 bombs, hitting at 285. But now you've got Brandon Donovan, who's been hitting at 280 on the injured list. Just a lot of guys that are younger guys that are not stepping up. Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, Pedro Pajes, Nolan Gorman, only in that neighborhood about a 230 to a 235. You could use a little bit more there. They just haven't had Luke and Baker out there on the field this season as well. So you got your issues there. But this has been a bullpen that's been pretty presentable. Even though you trade away Ryan Helsley at the trade deadline, it actually probably hasn't hurt this bullpen with the way that he's been pitching recently. And you've got the likes of a Jojo Romero, Matt Savanson, throw in there as well, Kyle Leahy. These guys give you a sub-325 ERA. And for the Rays, they continue to be a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This is despite the fact that Eric Orze very stunningly got sent down to the minor league level. Not quite sure why, but you know what? You've got Pete Fairbanks along with Garrett Clevenger supplying a sub-255 ERA for this team. Ian Seymour is a little bit of a long guy. Had a rough go of it in his last series against the Yankees, but overall he's been solid, and I do think that Joe Boyle goes out there, gives you a good start to be able to get the job done. Did somebody tell it at 8.8. At the 8.5, I like the over, and I like the Rays on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. podcast. Big thanks to our good friend Rob Donaldson for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from his fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to throw those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters M, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these in the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season, into the postseason, and I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.